Okay, welcome to everyone that's joined us here in council chambers, as well as those that have joined us from home this evening. This is the regular meeting of the Poquoson City Council for Monday, November 13th. If you'd all please rise, I'll lead you in the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and for the many blessings we've received in our city. As we look at the issues before us this evening, keep us mindful of our citizens and especially those in need. We ask for a blessing that on all of our military, especially those serving in foreign lands this evening, as well as our public safety employees here and in our city, our state, and our country. Bless them and all of their families as they are away from them. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I have one special presentation this evening, and Tanya, if you could join me up here at the podium.
And I have Robin as well.
Absolutely. I didn't say, oh, yeah, there's Robin. I'm glad you let me know that Robin was here this evening because she likes to hide behind the scenes, and I know that, in particular that she does a lot of work in this. I will tell the citizens yet again, and I believe, let me say, I've been here 21 years now, and for 21 years I remember getting this award, and this is to the Finance Department of the City of Poquoson, and it is the outstanding achievement for our budget from the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada. And it's a Distinguished Budget Presentation Award presented to the City of Poquoson for the fiscal year beginning July 1st of 2017. It cannot be understated what our budget means to our operational stance and what it means to every department in the city and every citizen in the city. That one, that we can trust the numbers that were presented. And I can tell you, if you want to ever pull me aside, I can tell you a host of cities and states within our country that cannot say the same thing. So what I would say is that it's a great achievement, something that we should recognize, and we should recognize at every level. So thank you very much, Tanya, for leading this department. Thank you, Robin, for all the hard work, because I know you've been here for at least 21 of those budgets. So thank you all very much. Would you all like to say anything?
No, I'd just like to real quickly thank my predecessor, Teresa Owens, who was here during this process, as well as Robin and the staff. Got a good group that I'm working with and hope to bring home another certificate come up this year. Okay.
Okay, and then City Manager, you have some new employees you'd like to introduce.
I do, Mr. Mayor. We have a small handful tonight, which is nice. First up, I usually ask the department head who works with these folks to come and introduce them, but since the first one works for me, I will do the first introduction if that's all right.
Okay.
I'd like to introduce to those members of council he's not had a chance to meet yet, and to the community, our new Director of Community Development, Wally Horton.
Wally, come on
up, Wally.
I know Randy probably didn't tell you this, but this is kind of a grilling session. Okay?
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, grill away. It's dinner time, right?
No. Go ahead. No, Randy, go ahead.
You would like
introduce
to
him.
share with the council just a little bit about yourself. What brought you to this place in time on your first day of work?
Well, what brought me to this place is when I saw the application, I saw the position opening. I knew right away that it was the type of place that I've been looking at working for a long time. I grew up in a city. I'm sort of familiar with how a city works. I've become very familiar with how a county works, in my professional career. But I've always wanted to get back to a city, and Poquoson really fits the bill. I have a 11-year-old boy. The school system, everything I've read is excellent about that. What really brings me here more than anything else is just, it's obvious that there's a sense of community here in Poquoson. and I'm really looking forward to being a part of that community. Active, and I've already talked to someone about Kiwanis and, soccer and all that, so looking to get very involved, and my wife is too.
Excellent. Well, welcome. And I'm sorry personally that I didn't get a chance to get by to see you the other day, but I am thrilled to hear that you're here and looking forward to working with you.
I'm thrilled to be here, and I'll look forward to the same.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And for the other new employees, don't get carried away by that grilling thing that I said, okay? It's going to be okay.
That only applies on your first day. I'd like to now ask Ellen Roberts, our city engineer, to come forward and introduce her new employee, Garrett Fagans.
I am very pleased to introduce Garrett Fagans to you. He comes from an excellent engineering school, and today is his birthday. He has jumped right in and has helped with the stormwater projects, has started doing inspections, and is working on the Poquoson Avenue sidewalk project. So I'm very glad to have him here.
Why did you say you went to an excellent engineer?
I think he'll tell you more about the school, and it'll speak for itself. So. Yes.
I just
And
wanted to
my
make
daughter.
sure. I just thought I sensed that, so I just wanted to make sure, but go ahead.
Hi. Like Ellen said, my name is Garrett Fagans. I'm a recent graduate from Virginia Tech, go Hokies, and I'm very happy with my few weeks here in Poquoson. I'm really enjoying the area, and I'm looking forward to serve the city.
We're looking forward to having you here, and Ellen has been looking for help for a very long time, and I'm sure she's going to transition a lot of paperwork your way. I just about trust that. So welcome, and looking forward to working with you here.
Thank you.
All right, and we have two more, sir. I'll ask Chief Bowen to come forward and introduce his two newest officers, Benny Beck and Efren Rosado.
Come on, gentlemen. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. One of the joys I have as a department head working in the city of Poquoson is when we have the opportunity to engage in processes that result in milestones for employees, promotions and hirings, particularly when we hire people who are highly qualified and wish to make this their home. And tonight I have two great examples of that. I have Officer Benny Back and Officer Efren Rosado. And they will introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about themselves, but we're very happy to have them here with the Poquoson Police Department.
Very good.
Benny?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, good evening. I'm Benny Back. I have 22 years of law enforcement experience. I have multiple qualifications that begin with patrol rifle, firearms instructor, all the way to CIT instructor. I have found out that Poquoson is the hidden gem of the law enforcement world. It's a place where everyone wants to come, not many people know about it. Everything that I've seen so far has been fantastic. The way the city treats the officers, the way the community responds to us has been excellent. And it's my pleasure to work here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and welcome.
Good evening, guys. I'm Officer Efren Rosado. I've had a total of almost 4 years of law enforcement experience. I was with Newport News Sheriff's Office for 3.5 years. Half that time I was in the jail. My main goal was to come to the road, and I feel like a good place to start would be Poquoson, just because it's a smaller area, not that much crime happening, which is good. And the citizens are very nice. I love how everyone's very friendly towards law enforcement, and it's a place I would like to grow and be in for a while. Thank you guys for having me.
Well, welcome, and welcome to both of you, and we look forward to seeing you out on the roads, and you'll find, I think you've already found that the citizens are going to be very open and receptive to you, and good luck with when they're not doing something exactly right. Okay?
Yes, sir.
And please clarify that the time you spent in the jail was on the correct side of the bars.
All right, Randy, anyone else?
I can't top that.
Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda is an audience for visitors. If there's someone here that would like to talk about something that, we don't have any public hearings this evening. So anyone here to talk to the council about something of concern this evening? Okay, seeing none. Actually, the commissioner raised his hand back there. I didn't know if he wanted to talk or not. Anyway, seeing none, I'll close the audience for visitors and ask council for approval of the minutes.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve our minutes of our regular session of October 23rd, 2017.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. We approve the regular session of October 23rd. Judy, please.
Councilman Canella.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilman Hucks.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Okay, and a similar motion on the work session?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve our minutes of the work session of the same day.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded that we approve those also. Judy, please.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilman Hucks.
Aye.
Councilman Canella.
Aye.
Councilman Southall. Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Okay, very well. New business section. First item under new business is one of my favorites, farm animal regulations. And Randy, if we could just get a brief, I think council wants to move different, but if we could at least brief what's before us this evening, then we will see what council chooses to do.
Absolutely, sir. As council will recall, in August of this year, you had a public hearing to receive and receive public comment on the recommendations for the Planning Commission regarding farm animals. The changes that were the subject of your hearing in August pertained to changes with regard to the keeping of chickens or fowl, specifically restrictions on roosters in most instances, changes proposed to the farm animal application fee, and the notification requirements relating to permits that had been in existence and were simply being renewed without an increase in the animals. We were asking you to consider, we wouldn't notice, but we also wouldn't charge a fee if they weren't increasing their permit. Additionally, in the council discussion that evening, there was discussion regarding a possible desire to include additional sections relating to beekeeping. And you asked as council to have a follow-up work session, which was held at your last meeting. And this ordinance is an attempt to capture what we heard and put it back before you. If we have somehow missed a nuance, I apologize. It was not for lack of trying, I can tell you that. What you essentially have before you is the recommendations of the Planning Commission not associated with bees, which is in a form that is actionable this evening. Part of the confusion on the staff's perspective, I'll speak to my own perspective, was it was my understanding that the council as a group, although certainly not unanimously, felt that, for example, a cow is a cow, and a pygmy cow and a regular cow are still a cow, which is in essence what the Planning Commission recommended to you. And therefore, there would be no specific changes, lessening of requirements, et cetera, for the miniature versions of animals. So, so that's why we presented here. I did understand that the council talked, members talked about the desire to have a definition of a pygmy animal. My misinterpretation of that was around the fact that if we weren't going to have any different standards for a miniature animal, then a cow is still a cow, regardless of whether or not we have a definition of pygmy cow. So if I got that wrong, I sincerely apologize. The second part of the memo this evening pertains to bees, and again, there was discussion about this. I know that members of council continue to have discussions about this. You will recall that the Planning Commission at their public hearing did have draft provisions pertaining to bees. However, when it was provided to you in the form of a recommendation from the Planning Commission, there was nothing relating to bees. And therefore, your August 28th hearing had nothing relating to bees in the draft ordinance. In consultation with the city attorney, if the council would like to consider ordinance amendments pertaining to bees, that would require a new hearing for the bee issues. But the planning commission, since the planning commission has already had a bee hearing, you could move straight to council hearing. What you see here is the suggestions, I believe, in large part, were those suggested to council and had been discussed previously, suggested by Mr. Powers, who is a person who's active on this issue and is also a beekeeper here in Poquoson. We styled it so that you could move forward with the planning commission had recommended to you prior, without the bees, and to move bees to its own separate hearing in in December. You have options to certainly postpone it all, but would ask for some specific direction so that the next time we bring it back, we know with certainty what the council's expectation is.
Very good. So let me just make this statement to council before we take any motions. I heard very clearly at the last meeting, I think this kind of captures what was said. I would tell you that one of the chief concerns, at least the one thing that I heard from council at that, was at least some unanimous consent that they wanted to regulate bees. Okay? So instead of just postponing everything, okay, what I'd like to see is y'all move forward and strike out the stuff with fowl and farm animal and move on to say we can have the public hearing on beekeeping and at least move forward with that part. If you postpone it all, you're postponing any action on bees as well. And then, instead of postponing something, if we ever get to a document that we can all agree on, because I will tell you that we've been down this road a couple different times, then we can bring that document back. And we really don't have to postpone anything. We can just approve this with the bees in there, with the beekeeping to be moved forward. And then if we can agree to something else at a later date, then we can do that. Randy, am I within my, and Wayne, correct me if I'm wrong, but all I'm basically saying is if somebody was to make a motion and it was to follow through on the resolution directing staff to advertise for a public hearing on the proposed amendment to include beekeeping provisions and just keep the third or fourth whereas, where it says at a council work session held on October 23rd, council concurred that they were also desirous of considering possible addition of provisions pertaining to beekeeping, which required another thing. That would allow us to advertise just that piece and move forward.
Yes, sir. If the council was to approve, correct me, Mr. Moore, if I get this wrong, if the council was to approve the resolution directing staff to advertise the public hearing, it's a longer title, but that's the resolution that would set you up for a public hearing on the bee provisions in December, after which time the council could approve the bee provisions or any reasonable modification thereof, including any other of the modifications previously presented in draft form.
So specifically, if we got rid of the third paragraph of the whereas the advertisement for August 28th for chickens, fowl, and other stuff, if we just left our desire to have the public hearing on beekeeping, and if council had come to other understandings by that time, then we could move forward with that evening too.
And Gene, if we did that, could we also have a definition of farm animals included at that time?
Sure.
Yeah, I was going to second that strongly. I think we need a definition of what a farm animal is, because a lot of these little pet horses and pigs and goats have never even seen a farm. They're pets. So I think a definition would be very helpful.
Okay. So that's just my recommendation to council. Now, we'll open the floor and let y'all, Wayne, if you got a comment, I'm sorry.
The resolution is no problem by taking out the third paragraph. We have to move the bees forward.
Right. Okay, so if somebody's prepared, go ahead.
Assuming you will postpone the ordinance.
Yes. Okay.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I would like to move that we postpone adoption of the ordinance only. And Randy, I don't think it was anything that staff got wrong. I think the council didn't do a very good job of deciding what we had a consensus on. And it appears that there is a consensus on things that are not in this ordinance. So I don't think there's anything staff or you did or missed. I think we just didn't do a very good job of being specific. So I would like to move that we postpone only the ordinance so we can get together again in a work session and get the specifics ironed out.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded that we postpone the ordinance. We'll just take that vote by itself. All right, so,
Gene, excuse me, does that take away moving beekeeping
no,
forward?
it doesn't, because
Okay.
that'll be in the resolution after that.
Okay.
So, postponing the motion on the farm animals only. Any other questions or comments? The ordinance change. Okay, seeing none?
Yeah, I think, I'd like to postpone it until we can have a work session and get the specifics ironed out.
Do it.
Okay,
Councilman-
until,
Councilman.
so that one would be after another work session would be scheduled, but we could still move forward on the bees. Okay?
Councilman Canelo?
Hold on, Randy, if you're concerned,
no, just-
let's get it right.
Point of clarification, you could do this one of two ways. I'll tell you the way I would suggest.
Okay?
If you're going to postpone and have a non-bee related work session to finalize the ordinance, might I respectfully suggest that you have that work session in January so that if you come through your bee public hearing and you don't have that clarity, that you can add that to your work session so you won't have to have two additional work
That's fine.
sessions.
But if we do get clarity that night, we can, if we do get clarity that evening, then we can at least do the bees.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so just to quickly review one more time. We're going to postpone the ordinance, come back in a work session, discuss definitions, farm animals, and bees, and then go
No.
forward.
Not bees.
Not bees. We're going to have a separate bee work session.
No.
No, we're doing bees
We're
tonight.
gonna
we're just
move,
gonna
we're gonna
do
move
bee- okay.
bees, we're gonna move bees to the beekeeping to the next agenda where there will be a public hearing.
Okay, so we are going to have a public hearing on bees. Not a work session, but a public
Correct.
hearing. Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
All right? All right. I am certainly very clear on this. Okay. I'm good. So we're postponing the ordinance.
Councilman Canelo?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman?
Aye.
Councilman Hucks?
Aye.
Councilman Green?
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Okay. And now is there a motion on the resolution?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution directing staff to advertise for a public hearing a proposed amendment to the zoning ordinance keeping of farm animals to include beekeeping provisions with the elimination of the third whereas.
Third section of whereas. Okay?
Second.
This separates the two issues. Okay, we have a motion made and seconded. Any questions or comments on that? Okay, very well. Judy, please.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman?
Aye.
Councilman Hucks?
Aye.
Councilman Green?
Aye.
Councilman Canelo?
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Well, at least we're unified on that part of it. Okay. I take that as a victory. All right, so the next item under new business is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into contracts with 3 contractors for elevations of 5 homes and an ordinance appropriating those grant funds.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to recognize our Finance Director, Tanya O'Connell, who will be the lead staff presenter for the next 4 items, please.
Okay, very well.
So sorry to take up so much of your time, but thank y'all. First on your agenda, well, second on your agenda tonight is the contract for 3 responsive bidders to elevate 5 homes within Poquoson. So I'm asking that you authorize the city manager to enter into the contracts, of course, with city council's approval, and then also appropriate the funds necessary to elevate the homes.
Okay, very well. We have a motion, so we have 2 pieces here, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into contracts, and then the ordinance that basically authorizes the federal funds, the state funds, and the matching local contributions from the homeowner.
That is correct.
Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into contracts for the elevation of 5 homes identified under HMGP Grant 40420011.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made and second that we approve the resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into contracts for those 5 homes. Questions or comments? Seeing none, Judy, please.
Councilman Canella?
Aye.
Councilman Green?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Councilman Hux?
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Okay, and the ordinance?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt an ordinance making additional appropriations and transfers for fiscal year 2017 and 18 for the attached raising of the grant raising.
Second.
Motion made and seconded that we approve the ordinance as well, which moves the money from federal, state, and local contributions from the homeowners into our expenditure column. So any questions or comments on that? Okay, Judy, please.
Councilman Green?
Aye.
Councilman Hux?
Aye.
Councilman Canella?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman?
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Okay, the next item is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a lease agreement with Enterprise Fleet Management.
Correct. Members of council, what I'm bringing to you is something at the request of our chief. Currently, we have $40,000 allocated to the police department to purchase 1 vehicle this year. With this lease opportunity, it's a effective way to get out of the traditional purchasing. It allows us now to enter into a lease of 4 vehicles, 2 supervisors, 2 police squads within our budget. So I'm asking for consideration to allow the city manager to enter into a lease with Enterprise. And as you see, we're going to be piggybacking off the city of Norfolk.
Okay, so, and then what I read it is within the description here is at the end of the lease, the city has the option of purchasing each vehicle for $1.
That's correct. Or we have the opportunity to sell it and then lease a new one at that time.
Okay. All right. All right, question, is there anybody prepared to move forward with this resolution?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a lease to purchase agreement with Enterprise Fleet Management.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. We approve this resolution. Questions or comments?
Is this for just this year, or is it continuing? Or
We like
might
to
could do
address,
it
we're
again?
going to try to do it each year. We're going to take within our budget to determine what's going to be the best approach and based on the police department's demand at that time.
Okay, so like 4 new vehicles for that very reduced cost that we normally would buy for 1 each year?
Well, each year, now we've got to take into consideration the lease payments next year.
Tanya? Oh, okay.
So therefore,
Tanya, the question was the term of the lease.
oh,
It's 5 years.
my apologies.
It's a 5-year term.
So it's a 5-year lease that we're signing up to that meets the budget that we've got today.
And so taking into consideration next year, we have the lease payment for the 4 vehicles that we're getting this year, and then we'll have the ability to lease 1 vehicle next year.
Within that budget
Correct.
that we've already basically set that
Mhm.
aside. Okay. All right. Did we get a motion?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and seconded. All right. Thank you very much. Judy, please.
Councilman Canella?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman?
Aye.
Councilman Hux?
Aye.
Councilman Green?
Aye.
Mayor Hunt?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Okay, the next item under new business is a resolution expressing the intent to purchase fire apparatus and reallocating funds previously designated for the beach at Messick Point. Tanya?
Again, this is just understanding your wishes during the last 2 work sessions. We'd like to move forward with moving the Messick Point into the fire apparatus, and then, of course, authorizing the city manager to get bids on the apparatus to see how we can proceed.
Okay, somebody prepared with a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution of intent to purchase a fire apparatus and to reallocate funds in the capital projects fund.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded that we go buy a fire truck and reallocate the funds to do so, and there will be some additional cost to come up with later. But all right, so Motion made and seconded that we do that. Questions or comments? Okay. Judy, please.
Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Hucks,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
Councilman Canella,
Aye.
and Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Okay, very well. And the next item is an ordinance making additional appropriations and transfers for fiscal year 2018.
Again, these are housekeeping items that I bring to your attention, just carrying forward things from the prior year that we need to reappropriate, as well as appropriating new funding that we've received from donations from the library, police department, and of course, a grant.
Okay, any questions of Tanya on this piece of legislation? It's a lot of donations. That's the one thing that I want to call out here. So anybody prepared to move forward with this on an ordinance?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt an ordinance making additional appropriations and transfers for fiscal year 2017 and 18.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded that we move forward and make these additional appropriations and transfers. Questions or comments? Okay, Judy, please.
Councilman Canella,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman,
Aye.
Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Councilman Hucks,
Aye.
and Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Very well. Thank you, Tanya. See how fast she moves along, other department heads? All right, so. All right. Resolution authorizing the acquisition of rights-of-way and easements by the Virginia Department of Transportation for Wythe Creek Road.
Mr. Mayor, Ellen gave you a preview of this, but I think she's going to show you a slide or two so that you know these properties are properties that are owned by the city of Poquoson. The VDOT wants to get the easements on as they complete the project. And is that what you're looking for, Ellen, the visual?
Yeah, I'm not seeing it here. Okay. It is not appearing, so can I?
All the council members have picture
Okay,
copies.
I
So
can describe them very quickly.
yes.
We have been requested by VDOT to provide temporary and permanent easements and a right-of-way for the Wythe Creek Road widening project. These are all located on city property. The temporary easements will cease to exist at the end of the construction project. The permanent transfers will revert back to the city upon completion of the project. They are just being provided to provide access or to change the location or change the nature of the city property so it reflects the fact that there are utility lines on the property. There are two at the southern end of the city. One is the Carey's Chapel right-of-way. VDOT has requested a utility easement, which would be permanent, and a temporary access easement within the right-of-way. At the city pump station, located closest to the bridge, they've requested a permanent utility easement and an temporary access easement adjacent to the road. At the northern end of the project, which is near the Oxford Run Ditch, they have asked for some permanent right-of-way that would be part of the Wythe Creek Road right-of-way and a temporary access easement on the Oxford Run Ditch property owned by the city. At the city pump station, located across the street from Oxford Run, they have asked for a permanent utility easement to locate power lines.
Okay.
Okay?
Questions or comments? Anyone prepared with a motion on this?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution in support of the current design of the Wythe Creek Road widening project.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All right, motion made and seconded. Any final questions? Seeing none, Judy, please.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
Councilman Hucks,
Aye.
Councilman Canella,
Aye.
Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman,
Aye.
and Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Okay, last item under new business is a resolution making appointments to the Colonial Criminal Justice Board. Anybody prepared with a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution making appointments to the Colonial Community Criminal Justice Board with the following names inserted: Lieutenant Kelly Waddell, David Coe, Honorable Virginia Munoz, Tony Pham, and all of their terms will expire November 30th, 2020.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded that we approve the resolution of those individuals to the Colonial Criminal Justice Board. Judy, please.
Councilman Canelo.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Hucks.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Okay, more to comments of the city manager.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, only one thing this evening, and it's included in your package for reference. I understood that you all had discussion at your last meeting regarding whether or not it was time to consider amendments to our sign ordinance, specifically and tailored very narrowly to the electronic signs provision. In consultation with you, Mr. Mayor, you felt in furtherance of that it would be ripe to bring it up this evening for discussion. So what I've presented for you, members of council, is what I believe to be the specific section that was subject to the Vice Mayor's comments pertaining to electronic signs. And you'll see that on the cover memo, what I believe to be the amendment that would be necessary to reflect the stated preference of council members during that hearing. I have also included for your reference the entirety of that sign ordinance, and you will find the section highlighted on the first cover memo to actually be on page 7 of the ordinance. So I present it to you and ask for your direction. If the council would like to have this considered, then I think you have one of two choices, and I definitely have a recommendation as to which one to do, if you're going to do it. If you would like to consider removing the exemption, I guess I'm really saying that backwards, but basically the city and schools are allowed to have electronic signs and no one else is. If you'd like to remove it so that every business could have it as soon as they followed the rest of the rules, then I would suggest that you remand the specific section change to the Planning Commission. Your alternative is to remand the ordinance for discussion. And if you recall how we began this conversation 30 minutes ago on farm animals, sometimes when you send back a very large and complex ordinance, it takes a while to get your feet back under you. You will recall that we have discussed over the years several different times to engage the sign ordinance more comprehensively. Each one of them has not come to a conclusion. So my respectful suggestion is, if you're ready as a council to consider this, to remand the specific change as outlined in paragraph 2 of the staff letter, which specifically removes from the section for the public. The section says, electronic message signs, period. Electronic signs are permitted for use by the City of Poquoson and/or city school system only. To remove from that sentence, for use by the City of Poquoson and/or city school system only, such that it would then read, electronic signs are permitted, and then the same rules and requirements that would be subject to public signs as already in the ordinance would apply to private signs as well.
Okay, is that the intent?
I would propose we go ahead and do this for two reasons. First thing is, I just think it's poor policy for us to pass a regulation and then turn around and exempt ourselves. I just don't think that's what a government should be doing. Second thing is that electronic signs are state-of-the-art signage nowadays, and they're all over the place. You drive out of city limits of Poquoson, they're everywhere. So they apparently are not a big problem as far as the brightness and flashing and all that, distracting people, which is one of our concerns. Okay. So I would propose we go ahead and do this.
Okay, so, but I think what Randy's asking is, I mean, do you want to keep it contained to just the discussion of electronic signs? okay? And
Gee-
I think that's what I heard at the work session.
Yeah.
So we're okay with what Randy has suggested here, just sending the one specific part of the ordinance back to Planning Commission for review and consideration and bringing it back.
I'm okay with striking those words Randy indicated.
Respectfully,
Mhm.
you can either remand the specific language to them, or you can send it back to them for review of the ordinance.
Now, we'll remand the specific language
Yes,
back
sir.
to them.
I
Okay.
think change the specific word.
All right, so we can turn this around. And
One thing though, in that
only at the
Yes,
podium.
but you have to come up.
It's been a while since I've looked at that language, but I think that there's some provisions in there concerning that it has to be constructed at the base flood elevation. And if that's the case, then it may be in contradiction to what we would allow along with Creek Road. And the only reason why I point that out is if you want to remand it back to the Planning Commission with specific language, we might want to consider that as well.
Okay, I'm looking for, I don't see any discussion in the current prohibition about base flood elevation.
In the electronic signs?
Yeah, I'm just not seeing it. It just says, Section 1, electronic signs shall display static messages, no animation. Messages or images must be fixed, unchanged for a period of 8 or more seconds. Each transition,
Right.
electronic message signs shall be allowed as freestanding only and must meet all the provisions set forth in subsection D1 of this section, unless that goes back there. But I would, what I think we can send back is the specific language and make sure that it works with, for any other concern.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't want it to have to go back and forth
Gotcha.
a couple of times.
Thank you. And I appreciate that. If you think it's in there, it probably may be hidden somewhere.
It-
But
It may be Section 7 on 4.7. The language says, if I'm picking up the section Ms. Best is referring to, in the event an electronic message sign is placed within a flood zone, height restrictions may be allowed for the sign to be erected at the base flood elevation. You think there's a potential conflict with that language?
Well, there's restrictions, excuse me. In the commercial corridor, there's restrictions on the height of a sign. It cannot exceed 6 feet in height.
that is correct.
So depending on what the base flood elevation is at the, site that it's going to be installed, there may be contradiction there.
Okay. But I don't hear the intent is to change, if you can't build a sign any higher, and, because I don't think council is saying we want to raise all the signs in this. I think they were going to have to meet the provisions of the other parts of the existing ordinance. And I don't, that's a much bigger question if we start raising signs to allow electronic signs higher than existing signs. So I just want to stick with just the provisions that don't separate us from others. And if that becomes an issue, then we'll deal with that. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So those specific words.
Well,
All
what
right.
we could say is just say that, in the flood or in the commercial corridor, that the actual height restrictions that currently apply in the ordinance would remain in effect. And then in that case, if the schools are building something and it's in a severe floodplain, then they can elevate it without any issues.
Yeah, I'm not interested in that.
Right.
I think we want to handle elevation of signs differently. All right, so I'm not after a change I can see this opening up a whole nother
And,
land war in Asia on, you can have an electronic sign that can be up here and a standard sign has to be down here. And then so I just want to make the small change, see what comes out of that, then we'll deal with if there's got to be a difference. I understand it, all right?
okay, thank you.
All right,
Thanks, Tab.
any disagreement on that from council?
We should probably take a vote.
Okay, all right, so do I have a consensus? Right? 1, 2, 3, yes, yes, yes. Yeah, unanimous consensus.
10-4, thank you. That's all I have, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Comments of council? Bud, we'll start with you.
Well, I'd like to welcome our new city employees to the city. Glad to have them here. And thank our financial staff for their excellent work resulted in the award again this year. And I'm certain we'll win again next year. Thank you all very much.
Okay. Carrie?
I'd just like to congratulate Delegate Helsel and our own folks, Commissioner Wilson and Treasurer Clark, for winning the election. I think Graham got 99-point-something% of the vote. And just wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. We've got a mighty lot of stuff to be thankful for in this nation, state, and city. And so just want folks to think about that over the holidays, on just the numbers of things we should be thankful for. That's all.
Thank you. Councilman Hux?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to recognize and thank Poquoson High School history teacher, Miss Becky Morrison, for her efforts in arranging for our veterans to be honored at high school football games this season. So thank you very much, Ms. Morrison. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Green?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to commend the American Legion Post 273 in Poquoson for the excellent Veterans Day ceremony, and the two high school students, the speaker Brody and the young lady that gave the prayers, and Susan, that they were just outstanding, and it was a wonderful, heartfelt ceremony, and I appreciate that very much. I'd like to remind everybody that the food bank this month is at a different day. It's not the fourth Tuesday. It is the third Tuesday, which is the 21st of November at the Old City Hall from 10 to 1, and our host this time is the York Poquoson Social Services Group, and they always do a great job of hosting it. So be mindful that it's a different day this month.
Okay, Councilman Cannella?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One thing that every member up here knows is that I've been pretty passionate about that $125,000 that was originally appropriated for the beach project since I've been on council, and I think tonight we made a very fiscally responsible and conscious decision on how to spend that money, and definitely always good to send a message to our citizens that we do have their public safety and concerns in the forefront of our minds, and just appreciate everybody's support on that.
Okay, thank you very much. I have nothing else to add. We do have a closed session this evening, and that closed session is pursuant to Section 2.23711A3 of the Code of Virginia to discuss publicly held real properties in the vicinity of Moore Road and Cedar Road and Poquoson Avenue, and then we'll come back from that closed session and close out the meeting. Is there a motion to proceed into closed session?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. We go to closed session. Judy, please.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilman Hux.
Aye.
Councilman Cannella.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman. And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Okay, very well. We are in closed session.
I didn't raise my hand. I think to me, Donald.
I didn't go ask. Usually I go down there and ask them, but this time I didn't go ask. Usually there's a.
Because Hope got one year. She get voted.
Beth did.
Beth,
Yeah, Beth did. She got like 9 votes one year.
I know.
My friends got together and decided to write her name, and I'm like, wait a minute, y'all are my friends. So we'll vote for you. They're like, we'll vote for you if we need to vote for you. I'm like, okay. All right, yes, the yellow mark.
My back line comes down. Yeah, but the dish runs all back. Exactly. Right, at an angle. Okay.
But we might have a jump piece in there, is what I'm trying to say to you.
All right, let's take a look.
How are you all doing?
How are you doing? You'll know in a little while, I guess.
No, I'm not too worried about it.
I saw the thing on the agenda, more road, and I saw you, and I was like, okay, now I know why you do.
I just don't like newspapers.
Yeah, I understand. Well, they're gone now, so, I just talked about 2 different things. Closed session. Or either one of them are.
Well, it's close session.
One's closed session. Cedar Road and Poquoson Avenue. Must be the property that Austin Federal. When you see the road from Poquoson Avenue, you see you got, Tabernacle across the street.
I have the women's club?
Yes, yeah.
Well, to the left.
To the left.
To the left of the women's club.
Yeah, left of the, I don't know what, I have no idea what you're talking about, but that's what's identified.
Well, there's a parcel in there, everything that adjoins, dog pound behind it, right?
Correct, yeah.
Well, they go into the dog. Maybe go into the women's club.
Yeah, or maybe going to the city, or who knows, but, yeah, I'm not sure
Any way we can put it in the tax roll, is the way it goes.
that'd be nice, as long as we can tax it, that's all. As long as we put it on the tax rolls.
But those are the north, I can hear those dogs all the way down.
I've heard this argument for 33 years, and it wasn't those dogs.
It wasn't those ones.
Well, once it was, what's his name's dogs over there on,
One behind Lucky 7 drew higher forever.
Well,
The lane.
the other ones were over there on that, Foreign Tower, Jerry Freeman's house. The boy that moved out to Montana, he had some dogs over there, they were barking, but nothing like this one over there by the football.
Well, the one down, and I remember the family name or anything about it, it was a house basically behind Lucky 7, it was up the lane. And that became a neighborhood feud. And I'm surprised there wasn't bloodshed on that, because people get crazy when they get to fight with neighbors.
When that dog started, one particular dog started barking. I mean, I'm not gonna tell you, I found the dog, I don't know where the dog's hunt from, I don't take good money.
She's doing the turnover.
I think she's getting short.
Let's get us on the air.
Don't make a mess of me.
I've been doing that.
Well, no need to stop now, man.
Okay, back from closed session where we talked about pursuant to section 2.23711A3 of the Code of Virginia, we talked about publicly held real properties around Moore Road and Cedar Road and Poquoson Avenue. Is anybody prepared to make a motion we certify that closed session?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we certify our closed session and that we talked about only what we went into closed session to talk about.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. We certify our closed session. Judy, please.
Councilman Canelo?
Aye.
Councilman Green?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Councilman Huck?
Aye.
Mayor Hunt?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Very well. And a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion made and seconded that we adjourn. Judy, please.
Councilman Canelo?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman?
Aye.
Councilman Huck?
Aye.
Councilman Green?
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
All right, very well. We are
32.